So I wanted to just talk about this for a little bit. Nothing really bad or anything. I don't know if you guys got this whole vibe, but these past few weeks, I feel like has been a pretty good week for Mortal Kombat 1. I pointed it out. I just said, hey, anyone else notice fans have been more positive toward Mortal Kombat 1 recently? Ermac is fun. There's great skins in the shop, and there's more coming with the 95 movie skin for Scorpion, and like the Deadly Alliance Shang Tsung and Deadly Alliance Quan Chi came into the shop. I have my gripes and issues with Deception Shao Kahn and Deception Sindel. We'll talk about that later, but a lot of people did like them. Crossplay is now available for Koth, so crossplay is fully implemented into the game. We now have crossplay fully available in Mortal Kombat 1. There was a Twitch Drops event that gave a neat boost to Mortal Kombat streamers' viewership. I've been saying that, like, why isn't NetherRealm doing these Twitch Drops events for their game? Like, every single mainstream game does this, like Valorant, Overwatch, Call of Duty. All these different games do this, where they'll put in content, like, where they say, like, hey, get this kind of content from the game, sign up or something so you can link your account to whatever the hell, link your account to your Twitch account, and then go on some streamer's stream and watch the stream for like 3 hours, and you'll get content for the game. NetherRealm has been needing to do this for Mortal Kombat for a long time, and they did it. I'm glad they did, and that's what I did. You know, I went on P&D Ketchup and Mustard stream, and I just watched, you know, the entire thing. I had a tab open, but hey, it gives like these streamers a little bit of viewership. It gives them a little bit of a bump in their revenue and stuff. It's giving back to the community while also, you know, getting eyes on the game. And hey, maybe in that little bunch of people who came in and tuned in, found a new streamer to watch that they wouldn't have otherwise. And that was because of the Twitch event. Again, it's kind of part of community building. It's giving back to the community. I really like that. Homelander revealed today. So Homelander's coming out very soon, and a lot of people are going to be excited for that. Invasion's content is kind of better. It has been the best since season 2, I will say, because Dark Raiden looks really good. And when we got like a new stage variant, if you played Invasions and you fought the boss, I thought it was pretty neat. And also, there was actually kind of neat little mini games, more so in this season than there were in the past seasons. There's some unique stuff. I'm not saying Invasions is good. I'm not saying Invasions is good. You know, at least it's not like the Melina season, which was awful. Anyways, and MK1 is consistently in the top 10 most played games since release. It has been. We actually got some data on that. MK1 is not perfect, and there's still plenty of more work to do, and I have plenty of gripes with the game, believe me. But hey, I think we can all agree it's been a pretty good past couple of weeks for Mortal Kombat 1. So yeah, Mortal Kombat 1 is horribly flawed at its core, but here's how to fix it. Oh, okay. Well, at least we're talking about solutions now, not just fucking at least we're talking about solutions now, and not just like mindlessly yelling into the abyss, because that's like one of the things that I said that I just kind of took issue with. Remember like a few months ago when we were talking about like, oh, Mortal Kombat 1 is dead, it's dying. Oh, like, how long ago was that? Crazy how 3 months ago, the entire community literally acted like MK1 was, like, on its last breath. Like, MK1 was going to die the next day. Like, it was going to just be gone. And I was one of those people saying, look, does MK1 have problems? Yes. The current state of Mortal Kombat 1, is it good or not? It is bad. It is not good. Dead? Is it dying? That's not backed up by any data. It's still consistently in the top 10 selling games and top 10 most played games of all time. Or not, I wouldn't say all time, but just like in the year of 2024. Oh, well, that doesn't mean that there's doesn't that mean there's still like, yeah, there's still problems with Mortal Kombat 1, but that doesn't mean it's dead. You know, that doesn't mean it's dying. We could talk about how there's issues with the game and how things that need to be fixed, but dead? Dying? I don't know, man. That's why I wasn't one of those people who were out there saying MK1 is dead. MK1 is a bad game. It is just gone. It is in the gutter. It is just finished. It was just like, no, it's not. Does that mean I'm okay with the state of the game right now? No, it doesn't mean I'm okay with the state of the game. It just means like, hey, let's get a reality check here. And then I was also one of those people who wasn't just mindlessly saying, oh, this bad, this bad, this bad, this bad, this bad about MK1. I was saying that, but I was also coming up, like, I wanted people to kind of focus on having solution discourse. Like, how do we fix this game? We know about these flaws. We know we don't like these certain things. Now let's talk about solutions. They may not be the solutions that are going to end up being the case, but if the discourse is a healthy balance between criticism and solution-based discourse, it's going to feel a lot more healthy, and it's going to give NetherRealm a little bit of a peace of mind, or not a peace of mind, but it's going to give NetherRealm an idea of like, oh, hey, this is like, here, like, this is what we don't like. Let's help you, guide you, and let's give you an idea of what we want to see, of like what we wish were to happen. Because if you're just mindlessly saying like MK1 bad, MK1 bad, MK1 bad, MK1 bad, like nothing happens. Like, wow, Soy, so good, so brave. Wow, you made it. You made the bravest take in the world. Oh, the bravest take. Oh, you said MK1 is bad. Oh, thank you so much. Like, who the fuck cares? Like, we know. Back to this, I kind of like how Tom Brady actually has, at least from what it implies, that he's talking about a solution on the problems with MK1. You know? Yeah.
What's up, everyone? MK Tom Brady
so,
here.
Let me listen to
so if you go by the title, you're probably thinking this is going to be a pretty negative video. However, quite the contrary. I'm going to explain the real issue with the core of this game in a way that hopefully everybody can understand why things are the way they are and why they can't change in certain ways. And like the cameo system is the core of this game. The center of this game, the core of this game, you have the cameo system. And look, the cameo system really can't be fixed in any way. It's flawed and there's no real answer for it. However, there are answers for Mortal Kombat 1. We're going to get into those at the end of the video and close on a pretty optimistic note. But on to the cameo system. I wanted to share a clip from Maximilian, and he had a very interesting take on what this game felt like when the Chameleon cameo was first introduced.
I really want to see the game open up and get creative by just allowing us to use other cameos and have them be effective in some way. I feel like the speed of some of these matches where we're seeing a ton of assist usage with Chameleon is the way the game should be. This is actually the way the game should be with every cameo. And that's what I kind of hope personally changes down the line.
So, listen, this take is something that a lot of us felt when we first got.
True. I mean, a lot of people, I remember the whole discourse happening, oh, MK1 dying, and then like right as soon as that happened, it was right as soon as everyone was talking about that, Chameleon showed up and people were like saying like, oh shit, Chameleon actually kind of makes this game a little bit fun because she works super well with everybody on the cast. Obviously it wasn't enough. It doesn't mean it's automatically a good game just because Chameleon came out, but it was a step in the right direction of making the gameplay a little bit more fun.
Chameleon, we're playing matches where, at that point of the game, people were saying the game was kind of slow and kind of boring. Then all of a sudden we get Chameleon and everyone's trying her out. And you're playing matches and both people are playing Chameleon and you're having assists go off left and right on both sides. And not just the assist in general. It's not just like it's the same one attack from both players over and over and over again. Like when both players had Kung Lao and they're both doing low hats left and right. There were different attacks going off very frequent. And the game all of a sudden sped up. And
it sped up and it felt a little bit more flavorful because back before Chameleon came out and like certainly like the first few months of release, like Tom Brady said, all you got was just fucking low hat, low hat, low hat, low hat, low hat, low hat, low hat. Kano knife, Kano knife, Kano knife, Kano knife. What else was Cyrax spin, Cyrax spin, Cyrax spin, Cyrax spin. And then they got rid of some of that, or they nerfed some of that. They tweaked it, fucking dropped the hammer hard on Cyrax. But Chameleon comes out. There's so many different things you could do, so many different combinations and stuff. And so yeah, no, like Max said, it was such a breath of fresh air. Such a breath of fresh air than just saying low hat, low hat, low hat, low hat, low hat, low hat, low hat.
You got this feeling of isn't this
striker bombs too. But you still see striker bombs, but still like like those were the big three though. Like it was just like Kano knives with Raiden, low hat, Cyrax spin, basically it. Yeah.
This is how the game
striker bombs didn't come until a little bit later.
It was meant to be played. You kind of got that feeling like this is how the game was meant to be played in the vision that NRS had when they created the cameo system. And, look, I've talked many times on this channel, the best ability for a cameo is availability. So, of course, the feedback from the community was, we need more of this. We need more cameos doing things just like this. And that is where the problem
I'm
lies.
playing at 1.5 speed and it sounds like he's talking normal.
And this is where the fundamental flaw of the cameo system lies. It was implemented poorly. So if you took other cameos and made them as available as Chameleon, here's what would happen. We already remember this guy, the Cyrex meta. If you give this cameo like an 8 or 9 second cooldown, like something similar to a Chameleon assist, I don't think people would be too happy. Just in general, when the game first came out, most people felt like this was way too oppressive. They had a serious problem with it. If you took Sector, like I'm always one saying, hey, why is the homing
This isn't 2 times speed. This is 1.5 speed.
Have such a bad cooldown? If you took this homing missile and gave it the same cooldown as one of the Chameleon assist attacks, you would never get to move. You'd have homing missiles going off every 8, 9, 10
1.75
seconds. You would be oppressed and locked down a vast majority of the fight. If you took Striker, imagine giving an 8-second Striker bomb, a 9-second Striker bomb. People already had a problem when they were 10 seconds. 12.
Now this sounds like somebody who talks normal but just regularly talks fast, like a Ben Shapiro. Like Ben Shapiro talks super fast. Like that's just, but he's not like, but like that's just like the way he speaks.
Imagine making them even sooner. Something the same cooldown as like a Chameleon attack. People would lose their minds over that. Even an attack as simple as something like Frost's Punch Rush. Give it like a 3-second cooldown like Sonya's Ring, you would never get to move. The minute you got anywhere near the character, you'd have a non-stop barrage of Frost full-screen punch rushes going off. And this punch rush would seem very, very oppressive to fight against. You see, this game introduced an assist mechanic without introducing the other mandatory mechanics that have to go along with an assist game. And what are these mechanics? Well, it's very common for assist games to also have push block, super jump, air dashing, and in almost all cases, the ability to air block. This game has none of those. If you took Dragon Ball Fighters, remove the reflect, which I guess is their push block, remove the ability to super jump, remove the ability to air dash.
Breaker kind of counts, but I mean, oh man, I think a push block would be so annoying if you added, there's already breakers in this game. Okay. And so you're already breaking through combos. And could you imagine push block? Like you're trying to pressure your opponent. So you already have a problem with the opponent like doing really well with meter management and breaking your combos. And then you have to deal with them pushing you out, push blocking you out of pressure. Oh, that would be so fucking bad. I don't know if that's the solution.
And say you can't block in the air anymore, or the same thing with a game like Marvel 2. You would be locked down and oppressed constantly, and would never get to move. And this is why you need these mechanics if you're going to have a game that have assists going off commonly and frequently to speed up the pace of the game. There's just no possible way to introduce a assist system in which assists can go off frequently without giving the player the defensive mechanics to guard against these things. And that is where this game falls short. You can't have assists with faster cooldowns as long as you are not able to air dash, push block, super jump, or in many cases, even air block. If you had those mechanics...
True. I mean, you do need defensive mechanics, yes, but I don't know if those are the ones you would have to do. I feel like, I feel like, and this could be wrong, I feel like you would probably want some defensive cameos, like cameos who are very like defense heavy. So like Motaro has offensive tools with his tail, but also there's a lot of things you can do with his shield or his reflect. So I feel like the solution would be defensive cameos, not a defensive mechanic.
Characters would have no problem navigating around a game in which one character is attacking while they have another character doing something else as well at the same time. This game they just don't give you the defensive mechanics to handle that, which is why this game is kind of bound by a cooldown system that can never be changed or improved upon.
Push block is good for a broken Sento sandwich. The thing is, the only reason why push block sounds appealing to you is because you feel like you have no defensive options and you want anything that you can take. You'll grab at anything to make sure that you can have the upper hand in defense and in some pressure. There's already like 2 defense things in there. You got your cameos that can be used cameo. Maybe varying on the character, you have defensive options just by the character's moveset alone, and then you have your armor move as well. And do we want to add another defense mechanism? I don't know.
There are many people that always say like, Chameleon, at least he's doing multiple attacks. People have brought up Tremor. He has all these different attacks. People only use him for one.
Nobody uses Tremor.
Sonya, people only use it for the rings. Kung Lao is only used for the hat toss, the ground hat. And this is because how the assist system works. See, Chameleon, all of her attacks, every single one of them, have a really short cooldown. But this is not the same for the rest of the cameo. So if you pick a cameo like Kung Lao or Sonya, you are primarily using them for their fast available attacks, such as Low Hat here. And if you look at the cooldown of Low Hat, it is a pretty fast recovery. And then if you look at the cooldown on something like Spin, well, it takes quite a long time for this to come back. But you're not using Kung Lao for the Spin, you're using him for the Low Hat here. The reason why you don't see anything other than Low Hat or Sonya Rings when you pick these cameos, even though they have other attack abilities, is like somebody will have no bar, like you'll have no super bar, so there's no way to extend the combo, and they still won't use Kung Lao Spin to launch unless it is a guaranteed kill. Why is that? Well, this is because you need these other abilities, which is why you need the main ability, which is why we picked them. But notice now, once I use any other attack but my fast cooldown one, and then if I try to use it, I am now restricted to the cooldown of the slower cooldown move. And even, I have no cameo right now, and as soon as it comes back, I still need it. I haven't had a cameo for quite some time, and now I use it, and it still has the slow cooldown, which means now I have to wait until my entire cameo bar has completely regenerated before I can use my ability again and gain the short cooldown. This is a huge drawback. This is because this game is not coded so each bar is individual. So there's no possible way the game knows that my first bar needs to come back slower and my second bar needs to come back faster. They're kind of all linked to one cooldown, and if they actually allowed the faster cooldown...
I'm actually kind of curious, what would be the downside of Lao Spin being on a shorter cooldown? I wonder what would be the downside, because I'm trying to think why. I'm trying to think would Lao Spin be a huge problem if it was buffed? I don't know.
To come back on the second bar, then you could use a slower attack and circumvent the longer cooldown by firing off a fast one, and the bar would come back right away.
I guess it's just like I kind of think it would be, because you just would have, like, you basically would have infinite cameo meter. Like, you could basically do whatever you want with the cameo. Like, the cameo would just be the character. So yeah.
Because the game is not coded that way to avoid the cameo system being broken and you getting around a slower cooldown move by firing off a faster one and having your bar come back faster, they just go by the lowest, the longer cooldown across the board. So once a longer cooldown is fired off, you're bound to that. And this de-incentivizes you to use your other cameo moves. You're usually only going to use the primary one you want. Even for someone like Tremor that has his ground pound, you're not going to use the other attacks because he's going to take so long to cool down that by the time you want to use the ground pound, it's still not going to be ready yet. And you are not incentivized to use anything else other than the...
Okay, well, yeah, okay, fine. I'll give you that. Like, you can't armor through it. Kenshi can block while Centro is pressuring you. Yeah, for sure. But like that's what you're saying. You just want it because of Kenshi. You have to understand, push block is going to apply to any matchup. What if you're not playing Kenshi? What if there's no Sento to worry about? Why would you give that? Why would you give that to everybody? Because you're talking about changing the entire, like, gameplay. You know, the way people are the way the game is played for every single character. That's why I said, it goes back to what I said. Like, it sounds like you just want push block just because a character's giving you a hard time. A character giving you a hard time is not enough of a justification for, like, something like a push block mechanic to be added.
Primary one, the attack you want to use, except for Chameleon, who has a very fast cooldown on pretty much every attack she has. You are incentivized to use her whenever you can with multiple attacks across all three of her forms, because you're not really going to suffer a huge cooldown penalty for it, and that's not the case for the rest of the cameos. So this is why they really can't buff the availability or how frequently most of these cameos are used, and it's also why people will say, oh, well, sometimes the game is slow or boring, it'll be low hat, or a cameo will have, multiple assist abilities, but you only see them use one, and there's a reason for that. It's because the game is discouraging you from using your other abilities because of how the cooldown works. So this is why there's really no way to get away from that, and there's no way to buff the cooldowns on a lot of these abilities. The game just doesn't give you the defensive mechanics to deal with that. So what is the answer with the game? Well, the answer really comes in not the form of Chameleon, in the form of Ermac. So Ermac is the way the game should be. If you look at Ermac, you see Ermac used with...
Is he going to say what I said earlier in the stream, where, like, Ermac is a completed character and he works with every single cameo?
Janet Cage, you see him use with Sonya, and I've seen several players use him with multiple cameos. If they took away Janet Cage, he could still use Sonya. If they took away Sonya, he could use Janet.
5 days ago.
He plays on his own, and the cameo isn't the reason why he's able to play the game. He's able to play the game because he's designed to play the game, and the cameo only adds to that. I think a real way to look at one of the issues is in what I call the Scorpion issue. So Scorpion, when the game first came out, because he synergized so well with Cyrex, he was considered in the top half of the game's tier list. I'm not saying he was considered top tier, but in the top part of the tier list. And then when...
Was he? I remember people saying Scorpion sucked from the get-go, regardless of Cyrex.
Cyrex got nerfed. He went from being Scorpion to what people joked around and called, quote-unquote, Lopian, right? Low-tier Scorpion. But Scorpion wasn't nerfed, so how did he become low-tier? They nerfed a cameo. This just shows that a character was incapable of playing the game without a cameo allowing him to play the game. So when they nerfed Cyrex, he went from Scorpion to Lopian. And then people started using Striker, which brought him up a little bit. And now Striker's toned down, and they kind of buffed him up a little bit in the last patch. We'll have to see just how effective that was going forward. But the character himself was not touched. The same thing with a character like Havoc. Havoc is considered to be like the worst character in the game right now, in dire straits, in desperate need of help. But when the game first came out and you had the Cyrex meta going on, he was not considered like super great, but he was considered okay. And then when they nerfed Cyrex and he went to the Striker meta, he was considered...
Was that true? I remember people saying Rain was good, but Scorpion? I don't remember. I could have sworn I see people just talk about like how bad Scorpion was from the beginning.
Serviceable. And then when they nerfed Striker, now he went to like the worst character in the game. God help this character. Without really being nerfed himself, he went from being okay to why is this character in the game?
Okay, wait,
and
what
Cameo should not have that.
What about Havoc?
When they nerfed Cyrex and he went to the desperate need of help. But when the game first came out and you had the Cyrex meta going on, he was not considered like super great, but he was considered okay. And then when they nerfed Cyrex and he went to the Striker meta, he was considered serviceable. And then when they nerfed Striker, now he went to like the worst character in the game. God help his character. Without really being nerfed himself, he went from being okay to why is this character in the game? And cameo should not have that effect on a character.
That's actually kind of true. It's kind of funny how that is kind of true. Like Havoc in this game, I thought he was top tier. I thought he was a little bit more stronger than people were giving him credit for. But yeah, a lot of people were saying Havoc was really good when Striker was not buffed, or before Striker was buffed and nerfed, and the Striker bombs happened. But yeah, now that those two things are nerfed, yeah, I don't see people using Havoc anymore.
Nerf Cyrex.
I didn't even notice that.
He was considered number one before they nerfed Cyrex. Guess what? He was considered number one after they nerfed Cyrex because he was a good and well-built character. He could play with multiple cameos. Same thing with a character like Johnny Cage. When they nerfed Cyrex, Johnny didn't really drop at all. There was still Johnny Cage and Kung Lao, Johnny Cage and other cameos, so he was still very, very good. And he's still not a bad character now. When characters are designed well, they're not going to plummet because a cameo gets changed. And I think Ermac is in that state, and we see, I think Reptile and Ermac are really the great examples. So, Reptile's a character who...
I would argue Ashra is also in that light as well. Ashra is a very, very good character without a cameo. Like, I really only use... I really only use my cameo if I need extra pressure. But if I really wanted to fight hard for that pressure by myself, I think I could probably do it.
Players felt
Ashra is one of those characters as well.
Some help, and they really did just a really small change. They gave him a change to his projectile, new animation. His projectile looks really cool right now. I love the change to it. But they didn't necessarily give him new moves. They just took him and said, any move that leaves him airborne can now be canceled into this other move here that can also be done airborne, and you can cancel out of that move also. So they really just took things he had and really changed them slightly, and it made a world of a difference. And now we see a character that is no longer bound to a specific cameo or playstyle. The same thing with Ermac. We see more of a freestyle way. One of the biggest complaints in the game was there's no freedom of expression. You see one character, you can't tell the difference between this guy playing it or that guy playing it. And this isn't the case in other games. But that's really kind of changed when you see Ermac. I see a clear difference when someone like Mighty Unjust plays Ermac, Sonic plays Ermac, Kombat plays Ermac, and then Foxy plays Ermac. And a lot of them, Foxy will use Sonya or Kung Lao, Unjust will use Sonya or Janet. There's a difference in how they play and even how they want to use their cameo based on what they're doing. Same thing with Reptile. There's a clear difference now when I watch someone.
I think Tweety uses Ermac and Striker as well. So I don't know. Did he mention Striker? I think he just said Janet and Sonya. Yeah. So I think Tweety uses Ermac Striker. So yeah, no. Like there's a big difference between like, you know, a character who you're only going to see, you know, like Sub-Zero. You're mainly only just going to see him paired up with like Chameleon or something like that if you really want to lock in, or Reiko Tremor or Reiko Motaro, you know, that's that, or Reiko Darius. You know, there is no freedom of expression there. It's usually just one character and one cameo, just basically one or two cameos with Reiko. But with Ermac, again, Janet, Sonya, Striker, there's a lot of other cameos that you can use. I use Serena, but Serena works with everybody.
Like Honeybee than another Reptile player and that Reptile player from another Reptile player, because he can do more and he can use different cameos. He's not just bound to this one thing where the cameo is doing all the heavy lifting for a character. 90% of the character is being lifted and supported by the cameo, which Chameleon happens to be doing for a large portion of the game right now. I think giving characters what I would call the Reptile treatment is the right thing to do. Look, you can take the cameos and you can tweak them across the board and really kind of work on all their cooldowns. So they're right now when you see Chameleon with these, 8-second cooldowns, and then you see Frost with a 15-second cooldown, it's no wonder why one cameo is terrible and one cameo is pretty good. So I would just split the difference. You obviously can't make them all like Chameleon. I would find a middle ground and then put them all in that middle ground, and you could still keep like the projectiles like Lao had and Sonya projectile fast cooldown, but kind of split the difference in some of the other moves so characters are not as discouraged from using their other cameo attacks. And this way Chameleon won't be so far ahead of them, but she won't be...
So basically, like, give a little bit of buffs for certain cameos as well, certain cameos that definitely need help. Like, I think Frost... Where does Frost really lie in the meta of MK1? You can't really give an answer to that. Just because you can pair her up, or just because you might use Frost in a certain team that you may play, like I'm just talking about you in the audience. You can't tell me like what's like the Frost thing to do. Like how does Frost really maneuver in the same way like Chameleon does or Lao Hat does? There really isn't an answer. And if you had the option to pick Frost or Lao Hat or I don't know, maybe even Serena, because Serena's just a universal a cameo, you're probably going to pick Serena. You're never really going to have Frost as your main choice unless you really just want to pair her up with someone because either you just like the character or just you want to play the game for shits and giggles. I don't know if the Shujinko buff that he recently got is enough. I definitely think that he needs some help. I definitely think he needs a rework. I'm glad that he got that buff where he has more moves that he can mimic, because I do think that's pretty significant, and I do think it's going to take a little bit of time to see whether or not like he can be a really big problem. So I could be wrong. It's kind of hard for you to be like actually a pretty significant cameo to use when it's all luck based, it's all chance based. You don't know who you're fighting against online. You never know. It's all really just depends on what it depends on the character. The moves that you get may or may not be good depending on the character that is on your opponent. And again, like I said, that's literally a roll of the dice. So it's hard to say that Shujinko will be a big, huge, dominant cameo. I think Scorpion's okay. I would like to see a little bit of changes here and there. Tremor definitely needs some help to where he can be a little bit more significant, because nobody uses his cameo. And nobody uses this cameo, and when people do, it's just for one move. Literally just for one move. Like, I barely see anybody using Tremor. So I think the biggest cameo, or the cameos that need the biggest help right now, are Tremor, Frost, Shujinko, maybe Scorpion. Maybe. I think Sub-Zero's fine. I think Cyrex is okay. I think Sector is fine. I think Jax is pretty fine. Janet, I still think we're a little bit in the early stage, but Janet seems to be okay. But yeah, no, those are the biggest cameos that I think need some help. And it would be interesting to see how that would happen, because, well, we've seen the big difference in how the gameplay feels when you have a character like Ermac or when you have a character like Chameleon come out. So, yeah.
She is now, and there's kind of a good balance amongst all the cameos and all the moves that they have. And then you go to the characters. So obviously we know that they can't make these cameos more available. You're never going to have this assist game where all these cameos are going off all the time and all these cameos are usable because of how available they are. They can all be more usable, but that more comes down to making the characters better and allowing the cameo to come.
I swear, the next people who ask when the reveal is happening, I'm going to ban you because it says in the fucking stream title.
They can then tweak the cameo system, and the characters that have also, what I would call, that receive the reptile treatment, would all kind of work hand in hand. And look, I would love more cameos going off constantly as much as the next person. However, that's just not doable, because at the core of this game, it's not really designed for this to be an assist game. You don't have the other mechanics that allow an assist mechanic to thrive without it just being too overwhelming and too oppressive. You need things like push block, super jump, air dash, air blocking, a combination of these, maybe not all, but a combination of several of them to allow you to kind of navigate around a game with all this stuff going off constantly. Without that, there's just no way to really properly implement a cameo system.
Yeah, also Darius. Darius may... I think I'm seeing a little bit of people use Darius now because they give him that extra move where he has that overhead kick move. And I've seen a lot of people use some pretty cool matchups, but I don't know if it's enough. And honestly, sometimes some cameos don't really need like universal, usage. Like you don't need to, like, I feel like Darius doesn't have to be used for every single character. I think it'd be cool. And the more you can get to that, that'd be okay. But yeah, I don't know. I'll hesitate on Darius, but I get the idea.
This kind of based game. So really, the assists really just need to be tweaked, and then the cameos need to be tweaked, and the characters really just need some fine touches. Kind of similar to what they did with Reptile. Like nothing like adding all these new moves, small but impactful changes that really make a difference. And if that gets done, I'm going to be honest with you, I think this game has a happy ending. But what do I know? I always love hearing you guys' opinions. Leave your opinions in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for more content.
So that's basically, oh Jesus Christ. That's basically
the other man.
That's a pretty good take. I mean, that's kind of what I said earlier in the stream, where I said a lot of characters and a lot of cameos, I think they could use a little bit of tweaking here and there, and the characters need to feel a little bit more complete. So that way, it feels like any cameo that is paired up with them can work just fine. Like I said, Ermac is a perfect example of that, and he even says it in this video. Ermac is a perfect example of like being a very completed character and feeling super nice, and you can use any cameo that you want, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see how those dynamics are, because it's ever changing, and that's nice. You want that in a fighting game. You want that fluidity. You want that, like, oh, I picked this character, but you're not really going to see the same kind of gameplay style that you see. When you see Raiden, all you're going to see is low hat. All you're going to see is Kano knives. That's all you're going to see. That's all you're going to see. With Ermac, that's not what you're going to see anymore. So the more we can get to that, the more we can get to like the Ermac meta. I don't know if you want to call it that. That's not the right word, but like the Ermac kind of style. The more you can get closer to that for this game, like Tom said, you're going to get a happy ending. So yeah, no. That I think that's a pretty good take. Yeah, I haven't seen most. I don't know. I know a lot of people in my chat were saying that he has bad takes and wild takes. I've seen some of the stuff, and some of the stuff I'm just like, yeah, that's stupid. But not too much. Some stuff I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand what he's getting at. This one, I think he's pretty spot on. I think the biggest, I don't know if Tom Brady started it. Oh, I think he kind of did, or at least he's one of the biggest pioneers. He definitely, like, I definitely take issue with the, oh, we should do like all buffs. Everybody should be broken. Everybody should just, I don't know if he was exactly saying that. But I definitely think, I remember there was this huge discussion on MK1 about how we just need to do buffs. We just need to do buffs. Don't do nerfs. Don't do nerfs. Don't do nerfs. Just do buffs. Just do buffs. Just do buffs. And look what happens when you do that. You get a game like Tekken 8. Tekken 8, everybody is fucking crazy. Everybody is crazy. Everybody is buffed. Everybody is giga strong. And the game is just stupid, ridiculous to go around. You're going to get that if that happens with Mortal Kombat 1. I understand Tekken and Mortal Kombat are two different games, but essentially you're doing the same thing gameplay-wise in how the game is played. So I noticed that when Tekken 8 came out, nobody's saying that anymore. Nobody's saying, oh, just do buffs, just do buffs. No. We're saying, well, maybe buff some things, but we definitely need to nerf some things, and we definitely need to dial back on some things. That is very true. That's just how you do it. That's just how you do it. So I've been saying that too. I understood the notion of not wanting to do nerfs and only doing buffs because you get a game like Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11 is like the other side of the extreme where everything from MKX from the previous game got nerfed, and it's such a dry, boring, stale game. That is what happens when you go to the extreme of nerfing things about the game, nerfing things about gameplay and stuff. MKX was super, super aggressive, super, super 50-50 focused. MK11 is very whatever the fuck MK11 is, because I don't know and nobody likes it. Then the other side of the extreme, again, is Tekken 8. And a game comes out, and it's just all buffs. It's all Giga stuff. It's all Giga strong meta and a very aggressive in-your-face running around. I think it's fine to play, but definitely it is a little bit too ridiculous, and I think it could use some nerfs. I definitely think it could be used some toning down. MK11, MK1 is still trying to find its footing. It really is. Sometimes at a certain point it felt slow. At a certain point it actually feels kind of good. Like right now with Ermac and Chameleon making everybody feel like it's kind of fast. You know, hey, Mortal Kombat 1 is kind of still finding its footing. It's still kind of finding its identity. And right now I think that's what it's going to be happening through the end of MK1's life cycle. I think by the end of MK1's life cycle, like when Mortal Kombat 1 Ultimate Edition comes out, when MK1 Ultimate Edition comes out, like the way the gameplay meta is going to be the gameplay meta that we've been looking for. We may not know what that is yet, but at the end of MK1's gameplay, or at the end of MK1's life, the way the gameplay is, like I said, that's going to be the way we want the game to be played. So I think it's going to entail a happy medium of, hey, there's some giga strong stuff in here, but also it's a little bit balanced here. So you're still having that fun expression. You're still having that freedom of, whatever, the freedom of that fluidity feel in a fighting game, but also, it's a little bit balanced. It's a little bit like, toned down a little bit, but like toned down in a good way, So yeah, that's an assumption. I mean, that's how MKX ended up being. MK11 was kind of doomed from the start. MK11 never had any chance to be that perfect MK gameplay game. It never had the chance because the fundamentals of the game were bad. The fundamentals of Mortal Kombat 1 was terrible, you'd have to do the gameplay from the ground up. It would have to be a very ground up, start from scratch approach to fix MK11's gameplay. MK1 doesn't have that problem. MK1 never had that problem. So again, it is an assumption, yes, but it is way more possible now than it was for MK11. The way people play MKX now is not the way people were playing MKX back then. People were not playing MKX the same way they're playing MKX now. If everyone's buffed, then they're all balanced. No, I know you're mocking, but yeah, no, never. That's never gonna happen.